Welcome back to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're joining me today because we've got a monumental chapter to break down. Dreamlace Episode 10 just dropped some massive reveals, completely shifted the villain dynamics we've come to expect, and swept us up in a magical romance that honestly left us all a little breathless. If you thought you knew where the political and magical boundaries of this kingdom were drawn, well, think again. We are going to unpack every hidden asset, every whispered thread, and every glowing secret using the direct evidence from the source text. Let's get right into it. The morning kicks off with this incredibly chilling declaration from the royal steward. He says, "This matter is larger than inheritance. We will protect the truth." The whole castle is already moving. They're pulling out Lord Cedric's records before breakfast even starts. And man, this quote just immediately hooks you. It perfectly establishes that the stakes in this episode go way, way beyond simple wealth or who gets to live in what house. We are dealing with hidden truths that the crown itself is now vowing to protect. The gravity in that library scene is just palpable. Section 1, the Valehart inheritance revealed. Okay, let's dive into this massive morning revelation. The royal steward arrives, the seal on Lord Cedric's record is finally broken, and what pours out of those papers completely rewrites Elara's reality. The adults in the room, even the steward, are stunned. Because we aren't just talking about a modest trust fund here. We are talking about Ashburton Manor, the Ashburton lands, the Valehaven rents, extensive commercial properties, and, probably most intriguingly, the Valehart mine. All of this is officially and legally hers. What you really need to take away from this is that for years, Elara's psychological submission was entirely maintained by the illusion of poverty. So, discovering this wealth, it's her instant liberation. But there's a really specific condition attached to some of these items. A sealed letter within the records flat out refuses to open. And this is where the steward drops a crucial piece of lore. That letter will only open for her, and only if she claims the bloodline of Lady Aurelia Valehart, Elara's mother. The record specifically follows Lady Aurelia's line, so by her mother's blood and by right, the Valehart mine and these deep secrets belong to Elara. It completely cements her true identity, not just as Cedric's daughter, but as the rightful heir to the Valehart legacy. And I absolutely love how brilliantly this illustrates the immediate, devastating turning of the tables. On one side, you have Elara. She's protected by the crown, her wealth is restored, and the truth is finally shining on her. On the other side, you have Lady Marteville. The king's steward realizes that the Ashburton rents are actually still being paid to Marteville, and he stops it instantly, just like that. By order of the crown, every single payment stops today. Meanwhile, Marteville's market accounts are already 3 months behind, so the financial rug hasn't just been pulled out from under her, it's basically been set on fire. Section 2, Lady Marteville's vow of revenge. So shifting gears here, the tone changes completely when we look at the panicked, furious reality inside Lady Marteville's estate. She immediately senses something is very wrong. She realizes the seal is broken, she's frantically searching for a key, realizing that Elara touched what was hers and has freed the very things she kept hidden. The desperation is so real that Marteville is told they could maybe, barely, cover 6 months of living expenses if they sell some of their dresses. A noble woman selling her dresses to survive? It's a total collapse of her carefully constructed world. It perfectly demonstrates how abusers often rely heavily on financial control to maintain their dominance. And once that's gone, they absolutely panic. Now, pay close attention to the number 15 here. That is 15 years Elara spent under Lady Marteville's roof. And rather than accepting defeat gracefully, our villain decides to weaponize this history. She flat out declares that the 15 years Elara spent under her roof will suddenly feel merciful compared to the revenge she's plotting now. Just listen to this chilling threat. She says, "I will make her regret ever leaving this house." Her daughter actually suggests going to the castle, but Marteville refuses. She knows the king protects Elara there. Instead, she's relying on psychological warfare. She says, "I know every wound she has." It's incredibly dark. She isn't planning a standard frontal assault. She's planning to use Elara's deepest traumas right against her.
Section 3, a royal riding expedition.
Man, we really needed some relief after that, right? And the episode delivers beautifully under a bright, open sky. Tracing the phases of this date shows exactly how Prince Thomas perfectly paces the outing to help Elara step out of her fear. First up, they started the stables. Elara meets a kind horse, admitting she's actively choosing not to panic. Phase 2 takes them out into the fields, where the kingdom feels so much bigger and they get to interact with the villagers. Finally, Phase 3, they reach a narrow, restricted path where they have to leave the horses behind. It builds such a beautiful sense of grounding and human connection amidst all the heavy fantasy and political drama we've been dealing with.
Which brings us to some fantastic banter. Elara is clearly a bit worried about the danger of the outdoors, and Thomas jokes about surviving a fierce battle with a butterfly that happened to land on his face. When Elara jokes back that the butterfly only chose him because his nose is large, Thomas retorts that it's actually a noble, very influential nose. It's so cute, and it perfectly highlights their growing chemistry and just how comfortable they are becoming around each other.
The little details of their day together are just so incredibly charming. I mean, Thomas gets a sugar mustache from eating sweets, completely dropping any royal pretension. We see the villagers, especially Mrs. Hale, genuinely adore him. They joke back and forth about stubborn fields and judgmental fish. Even a sudden noise that initially scares Elara turns out to just be a flock of birds. These charming anecdotes demonstrate something absolutely vital. Elara is actually enjoying the kingdom. She is experiencing joy and safety out in the outside world for the very first time. Section 4. The Waterfall's Magical Secret. Of course, a peaceful ride doesn't stay simple for long, does it? But before the magic really kicks into high gear, there is this beautifully intimate scene set right behind the water. The path is narrow, it's quieter, and the waterfall is literally hiding them from the rest of the world. Elara confesses she likes this moment and doesn't want it to end, and Thomas entirely agrees. It's a peak, romantic moment of vulnerability, and it perfectly sets the stage for the tension that immediately follows. Because right as they share that beautiful moment, things take a very mystical turn. The discovery unfolds in 4 distinct steps. First, they are just walking on that quiet path. Second, Elara spots something moving behind the water. She feels like something actively wants her to follow it. Third, they see this strange light glowing in the rock and the ground, carving out a path for them to carefully follow. And finally, this glowing trail leads them straight toward an abandoned mine. Inside those dark depths, we get a genuinely spine-tingling moment. They hear a voice echoing, and it's not just any random voice. Elara recognizes it as the exact same voice that led her to the prince in the first place. This time, the voice calls out through the cavern, reaching out specifically to the Valehart bloodline, mentioning her mother's name, Aurelia Valehart. The magic is quite literally calling Elara by her true royal blood, which leaves us with one massive, provocative question. What secrets are actually waiting inside the Valehart mine? Her mother left this for her. The magic is literally calling her name. And meanwhile, Lady Marvel is plotting a deeply personal psychological revenge back at the estate. Talk about a collision course. I don't know about you, but I am absolutely desperate to see what they uncover in the dark when we break down episode 11. Thank you so much for joining me for the explainer today, and keep your eyes open for the truth.